I thought we might sort of talk as if you've actually kind of become an international floater, as it were.
Don't push.
And just talk about, like, now you've got to spend so much time out of England. Like, what are the things that you would miss most being out of England for so long?
Pie and mash. Funny enough, it's true. I tend to miss pie and mash, don't I? I just think we've got to be a bit careful because we can't really kind of say why I'm out, even though people know.
No, but you'll obviously be spending a lot of time away recording and everything else. So there are bound to be things that, being English, that you would miss, like maybe, I don't know, food, certain you just
pie, mash, familiarities are what you miss, I think. Things, that make sense to you. Well, I do like England so much. It is a nice country. As opposed to not being a nice country.
Do you have any sort of favourite parts of England, apart from sort of London, where you obviously spend a lot of time?
Not really. I think the thing I miss most of all is not playing in England at the moment. I do miss that, believe it or not, one misses not going to crazy places like Newcastle and Birmingham. God knows why, but you do. You miss that.
There's no other audience quite like an English audience for you?
No.
Is that because of the reaction you get, or simply because there's something inherent in the...
Well, I've been playing in England for like 7 years, haven't I? 8 years or whatever. And, whatever, it goes back on time, and the M1 becomes very kind of nice in your head, kind of familiar little thing. And after doing America and all these, Japan and all those places, it does tend to look rather small. And quaint almost, do you know what I mean? Because when you spend, especially in the States, when you spend all your time going about in airplanes, just a sort of a 3-hour drive like the M1 seems quite funny, really. Like, you can always go backwards and forwards when you flat to gigs, and it really is. It's not like being on the road. I don't know why. It's not like working anymore. I mean, doing. That's a nice feeling.
What about your friends that you've got here? I mean, you've done this.
Obviously, yeah. One misses friends and parents, very much so. And I think that sums up. Just that there's it's your roots. That's what you miss. Travelling. I always did. I don't like travelling personally.
Do you see much of your sort of East End roots, as it were? I mean, you sort
of. Not particularly. No. No.
You don't ever frequent any of those old East End...
I haven't done for a couple of years. I did do at one point. But it's all changed so much. It all does, It changes.
I suppose the thing is with people like, Ringo and Keith and people like that, you'll be seeing them anyway, because they tend to move around as much as you do.
Whenever I'm in LA, there's everyone there anyway. It's always like London. They're musical friends one sees all the time. It's just the other sort, the real people.
Who would you say was the closest friend you've got amongst the sort of pop music people?
I don't know. It's very hard to say. It tends to fluctuate on who you see last, I suppose. And the last person I got really close to was Bowie.
Why was that? I mean, you have a lot of things in common?
Yeah, we always did.
Like what, for example? It's brilliant.
There's nothing. Total background. I mean, even from the very beginning. Same manager we had at first, at the offset or whatever.
Who was that?
Les Con, is him.
Oh.
Right, I can't remember. Same producer at one point. Tammy, started at the same time, really, I suppose. Both on Decca Records at the same time. I mean, it all links up if you go through it all.
Yeah.
Like a sordid trail.
Do you share the same taste in music?
Well, we did last time. I don't know about all the time, but we did. I mean, he's well into Anthony Newley. He was when I first met him. I could never get off in Anthony Newley. Nothing wrong with Anthony Newley.
Well, that was in the very early days, wasn't it?
Well, I think he's still there. I think he's still there.
You're still there, do you?
But I mean, we tended to. As I said last, we spent time in New York. We were into the same records. Basically, black music, really, wasn't it?
Does the idea of being a kind of floating rock and roll star, having to sort of jet around a lot, I mean, does it Does it bother you not having a sort of home base, or you?
I think indirectly it must do. Yeah, I think it does. I think it fucks you up.
What will you do about it? I mean, are you a person who can acclimatise themselves to hotels and that kind of living, or will you need to find a kind of
well, I mean, I
residence?
think about it. I mean, I spent practically 9 months of last year in hotels anyway.
Mm.
You know, so I think it's only when you really think about it does it tend to bother you. But if you don't think about it, it doesn't. Because I mean, you only spend 3 months at home anyway.
Yeah.
In a year, I mean, what I'm trying to do now is get like be it a house in LA or whatever, and maybe a house in France or something. You know, wherever I'm gonna, you know.
Out of the two, which would you prefer to be in, France or LA?
I suppose England, out of the two. But
No, but out of
spending most of my time in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it's the hub of
Closer to the
industry.
business.
Yeah.
What about? I mean, how do you cope with hotel existence? I mean,
really, all I do is get in bed and watch television. So as long as there's a bed and a telly, I don't really care.
The food and things.
service.
You've never been one of these people that have got to the stage where you've got sort of claustrophobic and needed to smash the place up. Have you? Because I know how people can get like that. Hotels. You have.
Often.
Yeah.
I can't think of a hotel room that I've not destroyed within a couple of hours. If it's only just like, I mean, you can put me in a room and it don't look right afterwards. It's never the same again. I don't know why.
Yeah. Why? Is that? But you're not a destructive type.
No,
You're kind of an untidy type.
Yeah, I'm a messer.
Yeah, a messer.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I've got guitars all over the place and records and crap. Books. I don't know. Instantly go out and buy 50, 60 quid worth of books wherever I go. And put them all in piles around the room. And I think it's just a mental stabiliser, you know, to keep one's intellect together. To remind yourself that there is something else apart from a late night movie.
Right.
Because otherwise you do forget. And I always try and get a record player in the room so you remember what you're doing there in the first place. Because you can forget that too. You just sit in a hotel room for 3 or 4 days and not go out. I mean, and if you don't have a guitar there, after 4 days you find it very hard to acclimatise to anything.
Yeah.
Apart from the ads.
What about the actual physical thing of having to fly and everything? I mean, does that get to you now?
Oh God, yeah. It's just the 14-hour flights that the killers, you know, like LA and backwards. I mean,
you're not at the stage where you can't get on an aeroplane though without sort of some sort of sedative.
Very close to it. Now, I don't like the idea of any kind of sedatives purely because, you know, God forbid they ever should fall down out of the sky, plummet to the earth. I'd like to know what was going on. I would hate to be sort of out of my skull. You know. One has a tendency to get drunk on aeroplanes.
Yeah.
You know. But it definitely wears you out.
Do you try and compensate for that at all? I mean, do you go places by boat when you can? Or?
I have once back from America.
What was that?
I just got bored. The SS France, New York.
But you got bored on it?
Yeah, 6 days, and that's not even long. I mean,
what was there to do? I mean,
very little. I mean, the jet set life doesn't exist. No way. I mean, they lie to you. It's an illusion. It ain't real. I mean, I couldn't find no tennis courts.
Were you invited to the captain's table?
Yeah, we didn't turn up. Didn't go. I'm very selective about the company I keep.
Not one for shuttle, whatever it is.
Shuffleboard.
The deck.
Yeah, that. I didn't do that. No, I never understood it. To be quite honest, I saw some guy didn't. I mean, I thought I'd feel like Cole Porter, but I didn't. So I didn't go on it anymore.
Have you seen that musical, Cole?
No. Good?
No, awful, dreadful, terrible. Don't go. Especially if you like Cole Porter or any respect for him. Yeah. Don't go. Horrible, mutilated. Yes. Where were we? Do you? Are you a good sailor? I mean, do you?
Didn't get seasick on me. Didn't bother me at all.
What
I'm not a good sailor. I mean, I've never sinned bad, put it like that. But I mean, it didn't bother me. I mean, I wasn't aware that I was not on the sea.
Do you do you try and compensate at all when you're away with I mean, foods and things? I mean, are you very particular about what you eat?
I used to be, you know, I was a vegetarian for about 9 years, but I found in the end, on being on the road, and you just can't live on toasted cheese sandwiches and survive, you know.
That's right.
I don't know. I tend to, you know, because fortunately I can stay in good hotels and be in sort of. No, I don't. I must admit, I don't. I eat any old crap. You know. I don't really. I don't think anyone does. I mean, you tend to pick 2 things on the menu and eat them all the time and get bored with them.
Like what?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think. It tends to be chicken. Broiled half spring chicken. That's all that comes to mind immediately. Or I ate a lot of oysters in lovely Wiltshire.
You like wines, don't you? And,
I tend to go on and off. I mean, I like Dom Perignon, champagne. Definitely, I drink a lot of champagne.
And here we are drinking Foster's Lager, which is also good.
Right. No, I must admit, I've been drinking a lot of beer as well. Yeah. On the road, you drink. The thing about that is, it's good travelling drink. Yeah. It's a surprising amount of people that do drink a lot of beer.
Are there any?
How I got on that? Never know.
Do you have favourite cities abroad and favourite places that you sort of hang out when you?
I get not being, you know.
Must be finding the moon.
I'm just trying to think favourite cities. I do like Paris, I must admit.
For what reasons?
Visual, purely visual. I don't know about as a place. I mean, as a place, I think they're all much the same. So some places are nice and old and look nice, you know, or nice and modern and look nice, or whatever.
It's an unspoilt city, relatively.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It's got a feel. It's got
streamlined it.
Yeah, you can feel the history there. So it's nice. I mean, it's comparatively unchanged.
What do you think about? Do you think London's getting eaten up in that way?
I think it is. I think it's changing radically. I'm not sure I dislike the change, I must admit, but
you can't like all these office blocks and things going up.
I don't know. I'm very much like 20th century mediator. I mean, I don't mind big office blocks and that sort of stuff. I mean, it doesn't offend me. Because it's nice in the skyline, I mean, you know. But I just think in London they're not doing it with enough imagination. Making it too boxy and too whatever. But it's not as interesting as, well, mind you, in America it's the same now. But when you think of, in fact, when they, I don't know exactly the time when they built New York, but when you think about how they built that, even for those ugly big buildings, they made them quite interesting. There was little spirals on the top, or little domes or something. You know what I mean? When you think about New York in the 30s or 40s, it did look like a city, even if it was grotty and dirty, you know. It did, in fact, look like something. It was unreal. That city should look unreal. They should look cardboard cutouts. And if you go to New York and it's a sunset, if you were standing between like Fifth Avenue and look down at something, I mean, you could knock it all over. It looks exactly like those cardboard things, you know. It really does. I mean, there's no back to it. There's definitely a film set. I'm sure it probably is. You walk around the corner, there's all bits holding it up, you know. I'm sure.
Yeah, you get that impression when you first see it.
Oh, you do.
The skyline is definitely flat.
Right, and especially, I mean, it looks so great there. And especially those amazing postcards. When you think of all the garbage down the bottom of them, of those buildings, I mean, stink and all that stuff coming out of the ground and the smoke. Horrible.
LA isn't like that though, is it? For some reason.
LA's a flat city, literally. I mean, different gear, different country. Nothing to do with New York. So.
What do you do when you're out in somewhere like LA for like entertainment things? I mean, where do you?
Again, I don't really go out that much. I mean, if I do go out, it's normally to pictures. I'm not a socialite at all. I'm really not. I mean, I don't think I ever was. I quite enjoy going to parties and things, I think. But only to meet other musicians or people that are interesting, or, you know, like to rap to people if you're in the mood, you know?
Yeah.
But otherwise I don't enjoy it. I do very little. I mean, you'll find.
Do you ever find yourself
in... do very little. I mean, it's true.
Do you ever find yourself involved in...
Who never goes home.
He's currently not very well. More about that later, or you know. His publicist described his condition as satisfactory. Do you ever find yourself mixed up in the film thing out there in Hollywood? Or in film parties, Hollywood sort of movies?
I've never seen any.
No.
I mean, the only thing I was aware of was that they had that movie called That's Entertainment, which was the MGM film.
Mm.
And I was watching it on television, and they had, they've only ever done it twice, the MGM Galaxy of Stars or whatever, and they had them all on, all the ones that were still alive, you know, when they, so it did a big deal, you know, 10 times. There was a million names. I mean, it was practically everyone never heard of, right? It was just downstairs, the floor underneath where I was, and I didn't realise.
In the hotel where you were watching it on television?
Yeah, it was downstairs. And I said, and I realised.
Who were they? Who were the people involved?
You name them. I mean, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Liz Taylor, Gary Cooper, I mean, all of them. Just name them. I mean, you know, everyone you can think of.
You'd never come across your Mae Wests or your Betty Grables or people. Have you met them?
Yeah, I said hello. I say hello to everyone. I tell them I'm cheap. I just spoke to John Wayne. Go hello. To everyone.
Oh yeah, that was quite funny, wasn't it? What
Yeah.
happened then?
You can't. Oh no, I can't remember now. Well, that was outside the workshop. I forget what it was.
You said hello, Duke or something.
Duke, I called him
Duke. You said you were big enough to call me Duke or something.
He was great. Those people are great. They really are. I mean, they're living caricatures of themselves. Well, he was anyway. He even had that little red scarf on. I told him to come off and film something.
The only thing missing was his horse.
I think it was probably down the road. He had it with him.
Hailed a passing horse and rode off into the sunset.
Anyway, John Wayne is. I mean, he actually does wear the same clothes in every film. It's just not your imagination.
No.
He's got his one outfit that he actually wears in every fucking movie. You think about it, you know.
Has there never been any people like that when you've sort of been out in Hollywood that you've wanted to meet? I mean, through, you know, sort of Saturday morning pictures or things as a kid. You sort of.
Bugs Bunny, I suppose. Flash Gordon.
Is he still alive?
I suppose there must be those people.
You know, they're doing all the Buster Crab movies. Flash Gordon, don't you, in town this week?
I didn't know.
Yeah, there's one cinema in town going on for like about 8 hours.
Forever, right? Yeah.
Well, they've got 43 editions of Flash Gordon Visits Mars or something.
That's a claim. What cinema was that? I went on to go.
Somewhere in town. I saw it on. It was on TV
Somewhere
last
in
week.
The world.
It's like it's.
Electric
film.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
the
City
film,
Centre.
City Centre, something like that.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. It was on the.
You know they've got to be appalling, though, don't you?
Oh yeah.
You know they've got to be awful.
The merciless Ming, though. You've got to have it, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh no, I mean I love them. But, I mean, I'm always don't want to see them. I mean, because they were pretty crappy then.
Yeah.
They were pretty tatty. His clothes were great then.
They used to apparently make them up from whatever was sort of around the set at the time, you know, from the other films. If there was a sort of pageantry, sort of medieval knights thing next door, you used to go and nick the tunics.
They weren't done ridiculously cheap, weren't they? Because we lived those boulders out. Sometimes, like some of his finger. Well, I saw his hand went through the boulder with a paper mache or something. He said, "Well, I must go now." And that funny run he had, doing. And he never could fly. I'm never going to ever fly. He always thought they could all fly as well. I don't know where we all got that from. Batman, I always thought could fly.
He had that tunic like Captain Marvel used to have, didn't he?
Yeah.
The Y fronts or whatever.
Yeah, kind of padded willy. Well, I think we're going off the course. We're doing it again.
There you go. Meanwhile, back at the interview. You were talking about books and buying a lot of books when you go away.
Yeah.
What sort of books have you been buying?
I tend to buy science fiction books immediately, and I buy every magazine, every glossy magazine. I just buy rubbish.
Yeah.
I just have a fetish for buying. You know, I mean, I can spend easily 50 quid at a newsstand.
Try and be specific though, about some science fiction stuff that you've bought recently.
Well, I just go for certain, you know, I'll go, you know, if there's any H.P. Lovecraft I haven't seen, or Edgar Rice Burroughs I get, or if there's any Michael Moore, or, you know, anything I can read without too much brain pain, you know, that is kind of cute to read and interesting, you know. I tend to buy Tarantula every bookstand I go to. I've got 40 copies of it. This is a gesture. And I always buy those crazy rock and roll books. That was terrible. But I was buying them all.
Like what?
Like, there's 14 books on Bob Dylan and they must go Barwell's and Life Story of Janis Joplin and all that sort of thing. You buy them all, they're all appalling, most of them.
Why is it that there hasn't been a really good rock and roll book?
Because you haven't done it. I think that's right.
It's possible.
I don't know. I mean, I think the only one I could think of offhand that was interesting was Chris Welsh one on Hendrix. I thought it was kind of, because a lot of pictures. I only really want pictures, and it was, I don't know. I suppose the Dylan one was pretty good.
Wasn't bad actually.
It was pretty good.
Anthony Scaddart.
Yeah, because I mean, it was pretty real.
Have you read the one that he's written on Jagger?
Yeah. Piece of shit.
Amazing, isn't it? You wouldn't think it was the same man writing.
That's a piece of shit. I mean, it's a money job, isn't it?
No, there must be somebody who's going to write a decent rock and roll book sometime.
I'm just trying to think. No, they're just so opinionated, that's all I think. I mean, I really do. I mean, I really quite like that What Bob Lumop thing.
Oh, Nick Cohn wrote. Yeah, that's the other one. Those are the two really good books.
But the only thing wrong with it is I don't agree with with his ideas. I mean, they're wrong, half of it.
Yeah, but
rock and roll did not end with PJ Proby.
No, of course not. Well, he blew him out of all proportion, didn't he?
Oh yeah, no, he blew a lot of things out of proportion. That's when you realise, again with that Rock Dreams thing. I mean, it ain't like this. I mean, some of it was very cruel and not real. It was a little boy's illusion of the music business.
Don't you
know
think
what I mean? It's like heroising when it shouldn't have been. It should have been. I mean, like
Don't you think it's when people get seem to get over intense about the music that they begin to lose the essence of the joy in the music?
Man, in reality, I mean, that really, if you look at that book, I mean, it's like a lot of it's groupieism and unkind. That thing on Donovan in that book was really unkind. Fool on the Hill thing was really. I mean, it's not necessarily true. Maybe he sees it that way.
What book are you talking about?
Rock Dreams.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of it was cruel.
Yeah.
I mean, and Tina Turner was never like that, hanging up babies' nappies and all that. So you know what I mean? Like, it's very cruel. A lot of it was. Wilson Pickett was never Paul Sharp. I mean, you know what I mean, that's how I don't know. That ain't what anything's about.
No, it's just one man's interpretation of it, I suppose.
Yeah. But when you know that it ain't true, that's all.
But then, I mean, you must realise yourself that people have fantasies about what Marc Bolan is. I mean, it's part of what T-Rex was built upon, wasn't it?
I mean, you can't. Should be able to fantasize. You're asking me. I mean, everyone has the right to think whatever they want about anything. It's just that a lot of people really think they're right on, and they're not. When you happen to know they're not, you know what I mean? In reality, even when it's not an opinion, when that's what I just don't like to read what someone says. Music ended in 1963 or something. I always like to see it written down in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't like to be told music ended. I mean, or ever since the Ponytails, there's never been a good rock and roll record, or like Brian Wilson. Since Pet Sounds wasted his life or something. Because he might not agree with that. Yeah. I mean, he's living somewhere, isn't he? I mean,
Just about, yeah.
But you know what I mean? I just don't like the attitude, the way some of those things are written. Everyone's got a right to do that. But I ain't necessarily got to be forced to read it. I don't like that.
Let's go back to films again. You were talking about saying you like to go to the pictures when you can. I mean, what films do you go to?
I can almost sit through anything, in reality. Last one I saw was Sting, I think, which I've really done. And I really like, not so much glossy films, I really like tasty films. Blazing Saddles I've really done. I like funny films as well. I like dopey films. I mean, I can watch Walt Disney films all day, those sorts of things. Cartoon films or... I tend not to like your arty films. I don't know why, I just tend, I used to like Bergman a lot, I probably still do, but I mean, I saw all the goody ones, and I used to have a period when I went in for directors. Or, like, I used to check them all up. I think everyone goes through that phase. But they tend not to make enough films.
Mm.
You know, you forget how long. Like, you know, I really was into Fellini for a long time. He hasn't made a film for years. I mean, well, I'm not aware that he has. You know.
He did one recently, didn't he? Fellini's Roma or something.
Yeah, but that was 2 years ago. So,
was it?
Yeah. I didn't see that actually.
Mm.
You just kind of lose interest. It's more kind of like the films that one doesn't see. I think you know you got to have a feel. I don't know, something about getting you in a cinema.
You don't go you don't get into the old film thing, nostalgia trip with Bogart or any of.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, but you know, I go high all those kind of films. I mean, you know, and I watched Thief of Baghdad last night till 7 in the morning on video.
Thief of Baghdad. What was that? Errol Flynn, was it?
No, I think it was Sabu, wasn't it? And it was like a big genie and all that.
Must have been Douglas Fairbanks.
That was the original one. Yeah, that was the original one. He was in. That was the silent version.
Tyrone Power. No, Thief of Baghdad. I think that
probably one of those. I mean, I think it's probably down that time. So it was a good one. Alexander Caldwell. What was I saying?
We're just talking about old movies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nostalgia attached to them. I suppose.
So again, being when you're in the States, you see them all the time, and it's great. I mean, you can see almost every film you ever wanted to see eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as TV's on, I'll sit up and watch it.
Does the nostalgia, the people talk about the nostalgia trip at the moment, don't they? In terms of the rock and roll thing and everything. I mean, do you think that that's a healthy sign or a bad?
Yeah, if you're going to learn from it. I mean, funny enough, I saw the Tommy Steele story last week anyway. And I remember seeing it when it came out. And it was kind of funny to see it again, because it was nothing like I remember. But if you're going for something like a memory gig, it tends to be a pain in the ass, really. Because live with your memories. Don't ever try and re-see any of those rock and roll films, because they tend to be disastrous. I mean, I've seen The Girl Can't Help It, he doesn't make it, I don't think. You know, I've seen that 4 or 5 times now. And that was the best one of those things, you know. Because the films are so bad, especially with the rock and roll ones.
But isn't there something about a film after a certain time, I mean, like The Girl Can't Help It, when you look back on it in 10 years and see, the feeling that the film gave of the times, the dresses, the costumes they're wearing, the direction, the way it's shot, that thing, that captures a little bit of the time that it was...
Yeah, but I mean, I've always been incredibly aware of that anyway. As I say, I mean, I always, even the second I made any bread at all, I would immediately hide every rock and roll film ever made, and I re-saw them all immediately. You know, so I've seen them all, and I don't... and musically, I mean, as you know, I mean, I'm very kind of into oldies, I mean, but I've got them all now. You know, so there's very few old records that I can think of.
You used to have a big thing, didn't you, about early Presley stuff?
Yeah, that really influenced me incredibly. I still do. I mean, I still like to hear all those records, you know. But the thing is, once you've got them all, you've played them all, and you kind of have them available. It's like thinking about you know, you get obsessed with trying to get a record, a great old record. I tried to get The Fool by Sanford Clarke, which was, I remember, being fantastic. And I got it recently.
Drink to the Fool, really crazy fool.
There's nothing like I remembered it. That was really a down. I really remember it being much funkier.
Yeah.
You know, it was really weak.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about those early Elvis ones is they're not weak. You know, and a lot of the records you do remember weren't very good.
Why was that, do you think? Why was that those Presley records were so good?
So well recorded. So, I mean, great musicians.
Yeah.
Great band.
But, I mean, they were limited in the recording techniques available to them, weren't they, at the time? But they still sound better.
I should be so limited.
Yeah.
They were, I mean...
But in virtually it was like one microphone stuck in the middle of the room and everybody singing into it.
That was the art. See, the art was in there. I mean, that's, up to recently, so everyone recorded 10 years ago. I mean, that was a craft to be. So that's when, I mean, the placing and the way, you know, because, I mean, you had to place someone here, place someone there, and move, in fact, if you know, in and out. I mean, and you mixed it on. If it wasn't one mic, they had about 3 mics in reality. But they only had one tape, one track, you know. But you'd have to rehearse it and get it right. That's why they sound so good, because they were so precise. I mean, they had to get them right.
You've never actually met Presley, have you?
Yes, very briefly. Just hello. I mean, there wasn't any kind of...
Where was that?
Vegas.
Vegas.
But, I mean...
Is he somebody you'd like to sit down and talk to still?
No, not really. I mean, you know, I'm aware of the fact that he's not and probably never was. You know, talking about fantasy as a person that when I was 9 years old, I was probably in love with, in fact, really, or something. I mean, you know.
Or maybe he's just turned into something different now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I have no right to even presume, or I don't want to lose what I remember. I mean, thinking about, you know, his black and white shoes and the way he moved. I mean, I know he doesn't move like that anymore. I've seen it. You know, I mean, it's a different thing.
It's sad that he never really knew what it was that he had, or appears not to, from what he says now, isn't it?
No,
he puts himself down for those early days when he
That's what I'm coming for. I mean, it's funny, you know. I mean, how can you not know?
It's like a different person.
Yeah. But one does change. I mean, maybe, I don't know. So I logically sit back and think about those things. I mean, I don't think I've changed at all. But maybe outwardly, you know, people would think I've changed from maybe the early Tyrannosaurus Rex days, or from before that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've changed. But you can't tell, you see. You can't ever look at yourself like people do. You can't. And the thing is that it would be sad to say that he's not intelligent enough or aware enough to have looked back, right? But as you say, he has no right to put himself down. Because, I mean, he was the heaviest. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. I mean...
He gave young people an identity.
The whole thing, right. I mean, there's never been anyone. I mean, he's still around, you know... He ain't the same, obviously. But for 5 years, when he had the whole gig sewn up, I remember the Beatles only had it sewn up for a year. That heavy. I mean, he had it. I mean, you just didn't put a record. I mean, for 3 months after an Elvis one. I mean, you know.
So many imitators.
Oh, exactly. I mean, he was the whole industry for 5 years. And he really was.
What does it do to you when you see sort of, I suppose you must do if you've got any film or things of your early Tyrannosaurus Rex things or...
Funny enough, there ain't nothing on film of that period. There's only one thing which I've never seen, which was done in Copenhagen, which I've never seen.
Well, what does it do when you listen to those early records? I mean, how do you feel about them now? Sort of
for me, see, they're very nostalgic for me now to hear. Yeah. But it doesn't feel that long ago, and I remember all that whole gig explicitly, you know. I just see, I think you always do, you just see what you did wrong. Or how thin, or how something should have been different. Immediately you see that, I always do.
But what about the good that was there? Maybe,
I mean, obviously from a personal point of view, you only see the good. Yeah. Really, but I mean, the thing is, I also see the shortcoming. You know, I understand now why people say they couldn't understand the words, which I never did at the time, you know. Yeah. Because I can't understand.
Do you ever see anything of Steve?
No. We never were close, ever. We never socialised, or we never were close. You know, you tend not to be with people in your own group.
Yeah, you must have played that White Doves album at the beginning of...
I've not played it all the way through. I heard it the other day. I only got it the first time the other day. The thing about that is, don't forget, I mean, that was never representative of anything. They were demos. Very, you know, they were... every track apart from one on there was done in one session for selling songs, literally. I mean, when you hear it, it's amazing. Everything is take one. They're talking, take one. And a lot of the talking on it is edited and cut out. It's not. There's no reality in that.
Do you ever think you're at a point now where you like? I mean, you've been recording and putting out singles pretty regularly for a long while now. Do you ever feel?
I've not over the last year and a half, actually. Funny enough, I only put 3 out. Surprising. I did. I know what you mean. I mean, I'm with you, but I mean, compared when I think of how many, like David's put 7 singles out this year or something.
Is he really?
Yeah, it's been hundreds. I mean, compared to everyone else, I mean, I used to put a lot out.
Well, mind you, because you've been more successful earlier than he has, hasn't he?
It's 4 years in now, but I mean.
Do you ever feel you'd just like to take a year out and say, boom, I'm not going to do anything for a year? Or do you... No. Is there a necessity to keep working?
Mentally, I think there is, yeah. And I kind of did that, didn't I? I mean, I've slowed down and stopped it down. And, you know. I don't know.
What about this? I mean, what about this old red herring? That, or at least some people think of it as a red herring. But of course, we know better. Of the new Marc Bolan. I mean, do you think there's going to be a radical departure at some foreseeable time between what you're doing now and the way people think of Marc Bolan?
The album I've just cut, people tend to think, I mean, it causes a very strong reaction in people, in as far as it's very commercial in a way that Electric Warrior was. I mean, there's a period of time, like even with Zinc, I mean, there's very few things one could have taken off as singles if you want, you know. Whereas the new album, there's about 6 you could, you know. And I don't know, but again, it's the first one I produced myself. And there's an energy there which, you know, sometimes can be lacking. I mean, there's a tendency, definitely, as time passes, to I don't know. You need stimulus.
Yeah.
You know, and I found it from producing myself and you know, just having a very good band now.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a period of time when I was not necessarily happy all around, either with myself or with what was going on. I don't know. I mean, the pressures are enormous. Yeah, they really are.
So you usually, I mean, I know that you're pretty objective about yourself actually, and what you can do during a certain time. I mean,
I should have been more objective at various points, but I you know, I've got no illusions.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, do you? I mean, there was a point where we were talking internally about a new Marc Bolan, just in sort of straight denims and no theatrics, and like, you know, here are my new songs, and this is the new Marc. But it hasn't quite gone that way, has it?
Well, it has. It's just it's gone the right way, and as far as we were talking about an extreme, the extreme being, I mean, I've had these jeans on for nearly 5 weeks now.
But you wouldn't necessarily appear on stage like that,
well,
would you?
I did for 5 weeks at the last American tour.
Did you? Yeah.
You know. No, I mean, because
but you
still, about the difference. I mean, I would not. I've no. Like we did an American tour in 5 weeks, in fact, and I've given no thought to what I'm going to wear on stage. I just take clothes with me. I haven't actually gone, you know, gone through any changes on it.
But what about the theatrical thing? I mean, David's going into this huge theatrical.
No, but you know, it's just thinking about clothes. I mean, he ain't wearing no necessarily any, you know.
No. Yeah. But you once said to me that Marc Bolan was always a bit flash. And would always be a bit flash.
Yeah. Anyway, what ain't flash for me to someone else is flash.
Yeah.
You know, don't forget.
Do you see yourself becoming less theatrical as
I don't know. It's been really.
Or?
See, when you get on a stage, I mean, I never really work it out. I don't think anyone really does. Well, I don't anyway. What you do on the stage? I like to wiggle. I'm a good wiggler. You know, I mean, working with the Who. I mean, you know that. I mean, all those things come about. All Pete's movements came about. He never sat and worked them out in front of a mirror or anything really. It's just things that come together.
Yeah. And
I find there's certain things that I do on stage or whatever, and you just do them. You know, I'm not about to have huge sets or do. I mean, I don't think, you know. So I'm much more of a rock and roller than that. I mean, the music to me is still really foremost.
Let's go back to something a little less heavy, a little more lightweight. You mentioned a little while ago about you like comedy in films, right? Yeah. And Blazing Saddles and things like
fantastic,
that. Yeah. What other things amuse you in the way of comedy and humour?
Same as everyone else, really. I mean, Charlie Chaplin doesn't amuse me. I say Lauren Harley does.
Why? Why do you make that distinction?
I don't know. He's a bit of a prick. Excuse me. I think, I always got the impression he was very conceited.
Yeah.
And I mean, it turns out he was in reality. He's a right egg, you know. But whatever. I mean, he really thought he was a gentleman. I'm sure he did. Whatever.
But you don't find Chaplin films funny. You don't find the Little Tramp.
I like the visual.
Yeah.
I don't find it funny necessarily.
Yeah.
Because all those films of that era are stamped with a certain way, right, and a certain movement. I didn't find it sympathetic. I found it very
but
obvious.
Laurel and Hardy you do?
Yeah. Especially their silent ones, the early ones.
You
know, I found very funny. I saw a great movie of them. It was on the ship, actually, on the ship. Tracing their career, you know, from the very early thing and how they got paired up occasionally and things, you know.
Yeah.
And you could really see that Stan was totally the strength. I mean, 100%. And because when he was on his own, he came over like a star, and the other one didn't. He really didn't on his own. Didn't even look like him without the look. You know, he didn't have his gig together.
Yeah.
Whereas
do you find
Stan was still doing? He was doing all that. He was still doing all that. Yeah.
Do you find the Morecambe and Wise funny in the same way?
Yes, I do. Not in the same way. I think what you find funny about them is, I mean, because they're not slapstick. Don't forget, it's a heart humour. It's kind of feeling sorry for the guy, and the other one, in fact, being a useless writer, and the other one knows he's useless, but having little goes at, you know what I mean? It's just like they haven't go. It's like
but there's a bit of that in Laurel and Hardy too.
Yeah, but it's much more. You know, it's different. You know, I think towards the end they got a little like that.
What about Tommy Cooper? Is that new music?
Yeah, but I've not seen enough. I mean, you know, like.
Do you ever go to comedy shows?
No, I never have. I'd like to.
Musicals.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the theatre. You know, I haven't been enough to you know, those kind of things. One doesn't. I don't think a movie's enough, really.
Does black comedy amuse you?
In which way? Give me an example.
There was one on television last night, actually. I probably didn't see it, about a guy trying to commit suicide. You probably didn't see it, so that would be a good illustration. Black comedy.
I don't know enough about it. I mean, I've only seen one or two things like that I can think of.
It's essentially the sick joke, isn't it? I mean, that's
Yeah, I think I do prefer openly comedy, I think, definitely. You know.
The old radio shows, sort of.
Yeah, I find those very funny. I really do.
The Goons and.
Yeah, not so much the Goons. You know, the Goons that were good. I mean, but I never listened to them at the time. Never tuned in, whatever, every Saturday or whatever it was. I never did.
What radio shows do you remember from your sort of
Round the
childhood?
Horn, I remember, and Red Planet. Huggets.
Huggets.
Well, Stargazers on you. I don't know why. That thing with that guy Alan Breeze. What was that? Billy Cotton Badge. We used to do so-called hits. Yeah. Those shows were outrageous.
Journey into Space.
Yeah, that was great. Oh yeah. All that stuff. I really like radio. I mean, like that kind of theatre radio. It really is so good.
That's really faded out, hasn't it?
I
the old
love
Hancock half hour and things like that.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I still try and find those on the radio. I mean, really.
What do you watch on television now? I mean, do you...
Basically, I'm watching.
No, in comedy, I was thinking, really. Benny Hill or...
Yeah, I find him a bit smutty, basically. I like that Who Do You Do thing. I saw that the other one.
Freddie Starr.
Yeah. Well, in fact, not even so much. I just like that I like the way they work as a team, all of them. That's what I like. I mean,
I thought Freddie Starr's impression of Cliff is quite good. That's always as good as yours.
He is good. He did a great one on me once, actually.
Did he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen many send-ups of T-Rex actually.
Stanley Baxter did a whole show.
That's right, he did.
Elfin Nolan.
Elfin Nolan, was it?
Hung himself over his piano or something in the end. It was amazing.
You can laugh at those sort of things.
Oh yeah, but it was a bit close. It was a bit real. He'd really gotten it together. I mean, just even like the lyrics and the whole thing was really Elfin. I mean, just funny. I mean,
you actually saw it? Did you see it as a surprise? And when you watched
I couldn't believe it. I suddenly tweeted it was me. You know. Right. hasn't changed at all, man. You know, little kid. It's a little kid walking down the street, you know. I think it took 40 years to walk and see his old house, you know. And then suddenly, they start, and big rolls comes up behind him, you know. Like, are we off the air yet? That's when he hits a little kid, you know. Champagne brought up. I was just so that was that. I really send that. It was really, you really got it again.
Well, I think if you can laugh at things like that, it's okay.
But I mean, it was really long. It was like half an hour long. I couldn't believe it. It just blew my mind, you know. And the fact that, you know, really, sorry he's gone now, but his record sales are rocketing. His mum and dad, we really liked him. He was a horrible little bleeder, really. They opened up the house, you know, like a museum, and they're well pleased to see him go. They were.
I assume it's not that way at your home.
I hope not. Do you want another bit?
Yeah, great. Let's talk a little bit about what I said about women and concepts of beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, when somebody says to you, Raquel Welch is a beautiful woman, right? I mean, would you see somebody like that as a beautiful woman?
No.
Why not? Why don't you would you?
I find her gaudy, physically, I mean plastic. I mean, it's not my idea of a beautiful woman like that. I mean, it's an illusion, I mean, because she hasn't even got big boobs, really. And that's all that fantasy and all that.
Mm.
Yeah.
What is an attractive woman to you? I mean, what is the... I mean, on the one hand, one has got...
It's a very elusive thing, isn't it, what an attractive woman is.
I mean, on the one hand, you've got Raquel Welch, and on the other hand, you've got Twiggy, for example. I mean, would you say that Twiggy was more...
No, I mean, I think Twiggy is very cute looking, but I mean, I think she's totally asexual.
Huh.
I mean, I would never think of her sexual, you know? And we are talking about
like that. So what are the kind of women that would turn you on?
I mean, it does vary, and I tend to, you know, pick on funny chicks. Outwardly, I don't know. I think it's a question of taste. I don't know if there's a style. I'm being very elusive now, because it's a hard thing to define. I mean, I don't like flash chicks, you know. I do like intelligent chicks, obviously.
You think the intelligence has to show in the face for it to be attractive?
I think if you've got it, it does anyway. In its own way. I mean, it's a question. It's more style. I find, you know, was being attracted to girls. You know, like the way they walk or the way they do something.
What about women like Jean Moreau, for example?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I really dug her. I really did. But
because French women tend to have that style, don't they?
Yeah. See, again, in reality, I mean, she's very plain looking, facially. But you never don't think about that. I don't know about now, but think about Julia Jim and those sort of things. I mean, there's something very attractive about it. But that, again, is a very sexual thing. What
about as a kid, very early on? I mean, did the Monroes, did they pass you by? Or?
I always found her, again, very asexual. I mean, I never saw, because I always thought of those people as, you know, like pulled in waists and pumped out breasts. I mean, you know, you kind of knew if you took the dress off, it would all kind of fall apart. I don't relate to that necessarily with Monroe. I think of Jane Mansfield or whatever, you know. Like, because she was much more, I mean, she never really hyped up that sex goddess thing, really. If you look at the movie, I mean, she did some good movies, you know, it was more, I don't know, I never really found her pretty, personally.
Bardot?
Yeah. I think, well, she, you know, she had that feel. And she looks good now, because she's 40.
Did you ever have anybody's picture on your wall as a kid who was a chick?
I must have done. Offhand, I can't, you know.
What about chick singers?
Bridget and Midget. No, I don't know. No, I mean, I name a chick singer that would be. I mean, what? I mean, when I was at the age of being susceptible to chick singers, I mean, I can only think of Julie Rogers and Dusty Springfield.
Connie Francis and all the rest of them.
She's a bit mummy for me, you know. There wasn't really anyone.
What about the Sandy Shores and Dusty Scylla Lulu Brigade? I mean, nothing.
I like their records.
What about Tina Turner?
I met Tina. I met her recently. No, no, she didn't. I mean, the illusion, I think, of a big sexy mama can be very nice, but again, in reality, I don't think Tina really looks like the illusion, really.
No.
I mean, she just does it very well. So she creates the illusion. I mean, so she doesn't really. I mean.
What about your Julie Christies and people like that?
I think again, yeah, maybe when I was younger, you know, when I saw Billy Lyle or something, I might have indirectly, you know, the early 60s thing, I might have thought about.
Well, what really turns you off about?
So you're picking one, you know, in fact you're picking basically, you know, conventionally unattractive girls, you see. You're obviously picking the ones that you fancy.
No, I'm not really. No, I mean I'm very weird.
Because Julie Christie again is not necessarily pretty.
No.
She had a good feel though. I don't know what she had a good hair. Yeah. Sorry, what are you saying?
I'm really strange. I mean, people like Billy Whitelaw, for example. Have you ever seen her?
Yeah, that's kind of the older lady gig, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean.
That's me.
I mean, you know they're going to know how to motivate. Well, that's the.
I always used to. Pause. We'll delete. I'll transcribe this myself. I used to think June was very attractive, actually, or Mrs.
Yeah.
Not that I would have ever made a pass at her, but I used to think she was a very attractive lady.
Yeah. But she again fits in that kind of category of those kind of chicks, you know. So the English kind of chick. I don't know. It's almost indefinable, really. It's funny, at gigs you always see a lot of pretty chicks always, you know, but you can never find them afterwards. For some reason, you know.
Does this, this current sort of craze for, in the Nationals of exposing women, in the nude, I mean, does that kind of, we're now getting the sort of, the boob exposed, I suppose thing. I mean, does an attractively dressed chick turn you on more than a naked chick?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing about bodies is you know, they should be like the holy grail you find at the end, or the gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, well, I don't find anything sexual about a naked body remotely. You know, it's kind of like the illusion of getting into it. Oh no, but there are some chicks. I mean, they're dynamite bodies. You know. I mean, generally, I mean, one is only a skeleton with flesh on the top, and I can't necessarily think of it any other kind of way, really. And whether you've got big bum, you know, like tissues are made for giving milk, aren't they, or whatever. I mean, it ain't really that romantic when you get down to it.
What about women like Angie Bowie, for example? I mean, does she do anything for you? Clam. Linda Eastman. Refusing to be drawn on this subject.
No way going there. Going away.
What about how do you like to see a girl dressed? I mean, clothes. Should they be fashionable?
I think yeah. I mean, if it's good, you know, nicely fashionable. I mean, fashion again is an illusion. You create your own fashion. I mean, you've got to find out. I like to see a girl that wears clothes that are right for her to wear. It's nothing worse than seeing, you know, a girl with really off legs in a short skirt or something, or vice versa, you know, or a chick with you know, no tits, trying to flash them or whatever, crazy looking tits. Or, you know, I mean, you've got to know how to handle your body, I think. You know.
Same applies to cosmetics, I suppose.
Oh yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, some girls. I find makeup attractive on girls. I mean, I like lipstick and all those sort of things, but nothing worse again than having it overdone. You know, or seeing someone who does it badly. You know,
Are there any particular clothes designers or couturiers that you think are really red hot? Yeah.
I like his hair.
Why particularly? Why do you think Ozzy's particularly good?
No, I just think he has a great flair.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really an artist at what he does. Yeah. I mean, he really thinks about it. He does it mathematically and constructs it. And he can work with the body and a shape. I mean, he can just get a piece of rag and stick it on you and it looks good. He's just really good at what he does. And there are very few, I think, that have that feel. Or that good, kind of thing. He is very good. I don't know any other one. I always like Beaver's clothes, that kind of thing. They're nice, mass produced clothes.
What do you do for clothes now? I mean, do you actually sort of have everything made for you, or do you go out and shop around at all?
I mean, I've been very lazy with clothes lately. I mean, I still go to Altham. They make things up for me. They tend to make them up and send them round, as opposed to me, I just sort of say I need some clothes, in 3 or 4 weeks or something. Or I'll go and see one thing and just have 6 or 7 made off the same thing. Mm-hmm. You pick up clothes and you just, I mean, when in LA I bought about 10 pairs of shoes or something, and you just go in a shop, they just happen to have all nice shoes. Mm. I always look for clothes, and I like buying clothes. And I like spending money, When I'm in the right mood, I enjoy it,
Not much point in keeping it at the moment, is it?
Yeah. I do kind of enjoy it.
I was going to come on to that, actually, sort of material possessions, any things that you've been buying, or which you...
Just trying to think. I really don't buy that much. Records, it's kind of spend that on.
Vast guitar collection.
Yeah, I do buy a lot of guitars. Well, I have done. I haven't bought any lately, but I've got like 26 guitars, I suppose.
That's almost an addiction, isn't it?
Same with all guitarists, the same. Yeah. I don't know any that aren't like that.
Yeah. What is it about it? I mean, is it just is the shape or the sound, so that you must have that, or?
I think it's to do with the time when you couldn't afford to get one. Because you never think of. I don't think of spending money when I buy guitar.
How much was the first one you ever bought? Cost
about £9. Yeah. The first electric one I got was £7.
Do you remember the first song that you ever learnt on a guitar?
I think I wrote it. That's it. I don't remember learning songs. I remember learning chords. Might have been on top of Old Smoky or something like that. One of those sort of things. But I wrote immediately on the first day. I think I wrote about 4 songs.
Is there an ideal guitar that you're after, or sort of got?
I've got that Les Paul I've got is fantastic. That's really probably my tastiest guitar. I've got 3 like on this American tour. I'm taking a Gibson acoustic just for in the room, Stratocaster, Telecaster, and an SG Gibson and a Les Paul. I mean, for me that ain't many. Yeah. I normally take about 8, But I found that I end up only using the 2 anyway, the Stratocaster or the Les Paul. I'm trying to economise. I'm carting it about because they do get smashed up and hurt, But
what does it do to you when you see Pete Townsend smashing guitars and stuff? I mean, you had a go at a few yourself.
Yeah, no, I've got no illusions about. I mean, they really don't,
The cheapo ones,
Or not. I smashed like lovely ones.
Have you? On purpose, or just sort of in the
heat
of the moment?
They get a little broken, and normally the first time you do it is whatever. Tension or whatever. But that's normally pretty rare. But what happens is you fuck it up somehow. You fuck up the neck, or you break the pickup, or do something. So it becomes not what it was, right? So then you end up trying to break it. You try and break the Stratocasters. It's very hard. It took me 2 months to break the white one I had. And it didn't break the right way. You can't break. Certain ones you can just smash it in half immediately.